there's so many fun facts. Well, how about this? We'll just jump right into our discussion point. My favorite fun fact, not my favorite fun fact, but the favorite fun fact of the night is that there was a giant royal cache, because so many, we'll look at this picture first so you guys can see what it looks like. There was a giant royal cache here, up in the mountains behind Deir al-Bahri, in Luxor/Thebes. And this giant cache, cache meaning like a piling of one type of item. This was a cache of royal mummies, and collection. Yeah, a collection. That's a good word for it. I have trouble defining cache because everyone thinks I'm saying cash with an SH instead of CH. And essentially in the Third Intermediate Period, priests went through all of the different tombs in the valleys of, or not all the different tombs, but a lot of tombs in the valleys of the nobles and the valleys of the kings and valleys of the queens, and realized that a lot of the tombs were open and looted and the mummies were just hanging around. And so a lot of these mummies were then taken from those tombs, rewrapped, re-osirified, which is the fancy word that they used for kind of a reburial, and then placed in 2 different caches. So for the past 2 weeks, we've been going through the DB320 cache, which is located in Deir al-Bahri, which you can see here. This is Deir al-Bahri, and it's up on the mountainside in this sort of 3-room tomb. And it was unfortunately looted. It was found looted by a group called the Abed Rasul family, and but many of the pieces were still found pretty preserved, and so we've been going through all of the different mummies, talking about them specifically, because mostly it's mummies. There's not really a lot of other random objects in the tomb because, again, it's a cache of all of these mummies. You're going in 2027. I'm so excited for you. Are you having to go during the eclipse, or are you just going in 2027? Hi, Zegmus. Oh, always good. Maybe that's the joke I should have said yesterday on yesterday for Taskmaster jokes. I have this friend who studied to be an Egyptologist. The only way he can make a living is becoming a PhD and teaching others to be Egyptologists. As far as I'm concerned, it's a pyramid scheme. You're going during the eclipse. Oh my God, Sky. I'm so jealous. I've been contemplating trying to figure it out. I think I might, but it's in August. That's so hot. I hate the heat. And unfortunately it's going through Luxor, not Giza. If it was Giza, I think you'd probably be fine. But in Luxor, it's so hot. I saw in Egypt TikTok creator claim that Nefertari's tomb is unique as it identifies her as herself. Doesn't seem to pick names. Ramses or Benru, yeah, I would say that's relatively true. It is definitely unique in comparison because, God, I hate to say it, I understand why people don't go to the Valley of the Queens, because the Valley of the Queens is really boring. I happened to accidentally go to the Valley of the Queens accidentally 2 days after the tomb of Nefertari closed, and it has still been closed 2 years later. And there were only 3 tombs that we could go into. They were 2 princes of Ramses III and 1 was a queen. And in comparison, I've never even been in Nefertari's tomb, but I already know Nefertari's tomb is extremely unique and dazzling in comparison to these 3 tombs. Those 3 tombs are very interesting in their own way. They are nothing like Nefertari's tomb. It is true. I don't think it depicts anywhere for Ramses. I'd have to think about if her titles, but I think it's definitely true. They couldn't understand stratigraphy. Yeah, cache of coins. Yeah. I am not familiar with anything between. Oh. Do they just mean the Sinai Peninsula? The Sinai Peninsula is just, it does sort of look like a dagger. It's kind of sharp. But I don't know anything specifically known as the dagger's tip, but it does kind of look like the Sinai Peninsula. Much love to you, Zegmus, as always. Yeah, we're cashing in for cash. Yeah, Nefertari's tomb is really weird and awesome. It's much more similar to Pharaoh's tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Like, it's weird because it's in the Valley of the Queens, even though that is where queens are typically buried, along with princes. It should be the Valley of Queens and Princes, because that's usually what's there. Oh, absolutely not. I would go on Rogan. That man is an absolute asshole. No way in hell. I would never get anything in. That's the problem. He doesn't listen. He doesn't give a shit. Oh God, I hate him. I did actually watch the entire, we watched it live on stream. It was so, I did not realize that thing was 3 hours long. That was it was awful. And the whole thing was awful because I could tell that Zahiawas was technically winning, but you could tell he just wasn't listening. They weren't listening to each other, and Rogan couldn't understand Zahiawas's accent and like how he talks in English. He couldn't understand him. And so it was genuinely awful. And then the worst part was there was a brief clip about the post show after Zahiawas and the absolute racism that poured out of that man's mouth in 5 seconds of that interview completely sealed the deal for me that I would never want to meet that low life in my life. I also burned pretty fast, Matt, and I was actually pretty okay in Egypt, but yeah, it is hard. That you gotta take sunscreen. Take sunscreen. See, that is something that is mentioned in some Greek texts, and it's not necessarily super accurate. Oh, that's cool. Flint Dibble is a guy that I did not know existed until like 3 months ago. That's surprising. That's surprising, Mark, to be honest. That is very surprising. I need to chug some water during this ad, so give me 2 seconds. So much for subscribing to tier 1. Thank you so much. I have not encountered Flint Dibble on a lot of media. I think what he does is a brave effort. I have seen some things where it is a little condescending. I have seen some stuff, but I can understand like his entire, like what he has made his entire field. He has made his entire field fighting the haters, and that is, I commend him for it. I could never literally do it. It would wear me down emotionally, physically, and everything. And I feel like at some point you just I wouldn't be able to take it. Like truly. I just don't think he would be able to take it. Sorry, I'm texting my dad. Okay. Hi, Baha. Flint Dibble, I thought was a fake name. I think it still might be. I'm not 100% sure. But if his father was an archaeologist who did lithic production, that actually makes way more sense why his name would be Flint. It's also kind of sad. I did think Flint Dibble was a fake name because I only encountered him on TikTok where he has very, very, very little followers. And so I thought, I don't know what I thought. And then I found out that he's really famous. I felt bad. Yellow, I am in denial about being smart and being an Egyptologist and having lots of imposter syndrome. So that is why I am in denial in more ways than one. I bet he has a lot of harassment and it sucks. Wow. That's very cool, Mark. That's very cool. Yeah. Yeah, Addicted, that makes sense. That, you have to, they only let certain things film at the pyramids. They have a very serious permitting process about, filming on set and stuff like that. And, you can do it. It'll cost you a shit ton of money and a lot of paperwork about not damaging the pyramids and stuff. Haley! Hiya, nerd! Welcome on in. I see some museum creators called Debitage. Blackberry flip phone. I'm not a fan of... Am I a fan of rocks? I don't know. I don't know if I'm a fan of rocks. Hello, Silver! Oh my god, all my friends are here. My friend's in there. Sky, what a great question. I became an Egyptologist via school and things that I focused on. So I did in my undergraduate in wow, all the words left my brain. Anthropology and archaeology, concentration in archaeology with 2 minors in creative writing and art history. My creative writing is because I went to school to become a writer, to write the book, to publish the book that is still in my brain that has not been published. But then I easily flip-flopped to archaeology very quickly after starting to do it. And then I did a master's in Egyptian art and archaeology, as well as a graduate certificate in museum studies. So that is technically what qualifies me to be an archaeologist, though technically in my day-to-day life, I am a museum educator. That is what I mainly do now. I don't work in a museum that has anything to do with Egypt. I work at a museum that has stuff to do with archaeology, but then also with much more modern history. And so I kind of figured out halfway through my my master's that I did not want to do the typical route and do a PhD in Egyptology because grad school was kicking my ass and was really, 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 really difficult for me. And so I did not want to go through a PhD, even if it meant at the very end of it I could get the cool doctorate and that I could work at a university. I realized I want to teach people. I don't want to grade papers. I don't want to have to critique people's writing. I don't want to write grants. I don't want to write research. So I was suddenly like, why the hell would I do that? So yeah, so that's why I made the switch to museums. Though I worked as a genealogist for a few years in between, getting my history up to par, more modern history up to par. But yeah. Yes, I'm very happy to not have class. That was good. Yeah, I bet you're very happy not to have classwork, Mark. I know, Mark, I've thought about writing archaeology fiction books or Egyptology fiction books, and archaeology fiction books might be better than Egyptology fiction books, because Egyptology fiction books, I think the accuracy would kill me, and the not knowing the simple things would kill me. I think I feel like it would make me feel like I'm lying. Oh my god, I can't stop burping. Stupid McDonald's. Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's back and forth. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. All right, so we're talking about mummies. We're talking about mummies today. We're specifically talking about mummies in the DB320 cache. There are quite a few. We've already gone through mummies from the 17th dynasty and the early 18th dynasty. We are mainly looking at the Wikipedia, but also at this website, which is, if I scroll back up again, the Theban Royal Mummy Project. It's also one of those really old websites that still has so much. But they have all the mummies laid out, and they have probably the most information that you could ever find about like a mummy. And it's very helpful. It is pretty. It does have that early 2000s website taste in your mouth when you look at it. Yeah, Bones is so good. That'd be very cool. Hello, Leonardo. Welcome on in. So the mummy that we left off at last week was Tutmos III. And essentially, so we did technically skip over Hatshepsut, even though she is mentioned on this book. She's right in this page. She's right here. She was not found in DB320. Only this box was found in DB320, which did include a tooth, a molar, and what was it, a liver? Maybe it was a liver or something? A liver, remains of a human liver and a molar, and it has Hatshepsut's name on it. And so we assumed that Hatshepsut may have been in this tomb, or may have been associated with this tomb or something. And then a different mummy was found, and this is a crazy photo. That's her mummy, just lying in a tomb. I'm definitely gonna have to do a video about it because it's so weird. But then the molar tooth was placed inside of her mouth because it found out that it actually fit perfectly. But they, Hawass announced that the mummy has finally been identified. People were a little bit more cautious and they waited for the DNA. And then the DNA did confirm that that mummy was Hatshepsut. So we're skipping technically over her because she actually wasn't found in DB320. But, and we're going to her, what is it, stepson nephew and co-ruler, but also the guy, one of the guys who tried to wipe her name from existence. So we have Tutmosis III, who is the pharaoh after her. So Tutmosis III was unwrapped by Emil Birch in July of 1881, and then subsequently rebandaged, only to be unwrapped a second time in 1886. Maspero records that the mummy was covered with a greasy, whitish layer of material containing putrid human fat. God bless. So this box is actually very, I think it looks quite similar to some canopic boxes that have been found. So I would assume that this box, I mean, it's unique in the sense that almost all of these pharaohs have no objects found in their tomb. So it's unique in that, hey, there's something that has been preserved from her tomb, like from her burial cache, because there's nothing really else. But the shape of the box and the inscription on the box is nothing special. You can see it's got some ivory. It's got an ivory edge and an ivory knob right there. But it's sort of got a corniced top, which actually, I'm pretty sure Tutankhamun's is a Tutankhamun alabaster box. Yeah. Okay, that's a fake of it, but that's like the same box. This is a replica of it, but this is what his canopic box looks like. And it does have, it's hard to see, but it does have 4 separated chambers. I'm not sure if the Hatshepsut box has that, but I don't doubt it kind of does. But yeah, this is a very, very, I wish, none of these pictures are, these are all bad pictures, but something like that. Oh, that's funny. They actually show the little tube of it. But yeah, it's actually kind of weirdly similar. It does. Is it sort of like a replica? Like, I assume it doesn't have actual artifacts. There's a lot of really... Egypt was such a big fad that a lot of children's museums have really good Egyptian stuff. There's also... The one that I used to go to as a kid was in Baltimore. It's called the... Port Discovery. Port Discovery's, I will say, Egypt thing was more about... it was a playground and was more supposed to be spooky. You kind of go through... Oh, you think they do? We'll have to look that up. It might, but they also they might all be replicas. It wouldn't totally surprise me that a children's museum would have stuff, but it really depends on what the things are and if they're accessible or if they're just like in a case. It'd be hard to do it. Yeah, this grave wax is kind of gross. So far, I will say the ones that we've read about so far, I don't think have had any of that material on them. But resiny material, which was more used in the mummification, is really common. Most mummies are not still juicy unless they've accidentally become wet. This is gonna be a really horrible comparison, and I apologize in advance. It's like dehydrating something, and then like if you're dehydrating mashed potatoes and it becomes all crumbly, and then you add water to them, they become fluffy again. It is essentially that. So there are mummies that have not survived because they have gotten wet. Yeah, it's all forbidden jerky. Sorry, I was trying to think of something specific. I don't know why I said mashed potatoes. But yeah, so it's like... it's less... Usually they are unfortunately so raisins, and yeah, I should have done raisins. Usually they're so dry that they will break apart, literally. Yeah, Nile Delta tombs are very wet. One of the things about the Tanis treasures that I was talking about in a recent video that I did is that the Tanis treasures, one half of the tomb is completely unlooted. It was completely preserved. It was never, or not completely preserved. It was never looted by somebody. It was completely sealed. But because of the environment in Tanis, anything organic was destroyed. Like quite literally, the mummies were destroyed. Anything wood, any food products, any linen, any of those things did not survive. So the Tanis treasures, in comparison to Tutankhamun's treasures, which even though he was looted, he has over 5,000 objects. The Tanis treasures is only about 600 objects, because they are missing so many of those things. The kind of fun thing about Tanis treasures, though, is the only thing that really survives are the gold and silver, which is really funny how that works and stuff. But yeah. The tombs could smell. Yeah. There is definitely the possibility. I've heard people talking about it smell, even with the dried. Some of these ones who actually, in the notes of when they were unwrapped, they carried an aromatic smell to them. Most of that is coming off of the resin, which would be had incense and smells like included into it. But I would say it's more musty, but if there is water involved, yes, it's going to smell. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ben, if it is an intact tomb, there are chances that you will be able to smell better things. There's just not many intact tombs, obviously. Like Tutankhamun had several layers of flower garlands on his chest, and some of them still did smell, but that was because it was an intact tomb and it was sealed for so long. But there's also the chance of they did have food in there. Most of it was mummified, but they did have potential like incenses and things that could go bad over time. Absolutely. Okay, where were we? So, Originally, the white substance was thought to be natron salt, but then it was identified as a substance of efflorescent of fatty acids. Gross. Absolutely. The mummy had been damaged badly in antiquity and was repaired by members of the reburial party, who reinforced it with 4 wooden oars. See photo of wrapped mummy. Let's take a look. Oh, there he is. Oh my god, look at the oar. Wait, that's so funny. So this is how the mummy was found. An intact tomb would have the smell, would not necessarily have the smell of death. It would have the smell of all the things that are left in the tomb. Because remember, the mummy is dried in salt for so long, and then it was, then they were rubbed in oils, then they were given resin that was poured over it. So there's a lot of barriers in between like a corpse. It's not rotting, so it doesn't have that smell. But it have everything else in the tomb. Yeah, it's not a crutch, it's a wooden oar. So, oh wow, note the large hole in the chest area of the mummy made by thieves who were probably trying to get the heart scarab. Note also the wooden oar, 1 of 4, which reburial priests used to reinforce the badly damaged mummy. The hole, I didn't notice that the first time. That's so interesting. The head was broken off at the neck, the arms and legs were detached, both arms were broken at the elbows, and the feet were broken off. The right arm and forearm were tied to a piece of wood by a mast of fine linen. The king's left hand is clenched, indicating that he was once holding an object, perhaps a ceremonial scepter or flail, which the robbers had stolen. The 11-centimeter embalmer's incision on the left side cuts a diagonal line from the hip bone to the pubes. Smith records that though through its narrow aperture, one can see the resin-soaked linen used to fill the body cavity after the internal organs had been removed. Resin-treated wads of linen had also been used to plug up the nostrils. This is really common of this time period. Unable to find any traces of the genitals. Oh God, why are they all so focused? No, they're not focused on genitals, obviously. They just... Smiths believed that they had been removed probably during the embalming process. Tutmosis III was short, standing only just over 5 feet tall, and since had no sign of hair remaining on the scalp, conclude that he was probably completely bald. Especially notes the skull, which he describes as very remarkable for its large capacity and, oh God, God damn it, these freaking people. I know, if you remember correctly, this is like the 3rd person that they like can't find their genitals. We're going over skull shapes, so we're skipping that. Large portions of Tutmosis III's skin were covered with what appears to be a rash of some sort, perhaps caused by an illness or by the action of the embalming salts, oils, and resins on the skin after death. I wonder if that's this. You can kind of see it on his forehead. Yeah, it's kind of funny because that's not really that random to think that they would do something with that, but I don't think we have any like distinctive writing, because it is very like the Egyptians copied a lot of stuff that is said in their mythology, so it wouldn't be that technically weird for them to copy and act like that. But yeah, I don't think we have anything distinctly written. Though, do I put it past looters to take it for shits and giggles? No, I don't, because we're freaking humans, and I just feel like that's something that may have been done. Where am I? Oh, string of beads made variously of carnelian, gold, lapis lazuli, and green feldspar. Ooh, that's a unique one. Green feldspar is not very common. It's very common made into paint, but I haven't really seen it used as a bead or an inlay very often. Was found on the shoulders, lying upon the innermost bandages. Reeves states that the beads were found beneath the innermost bandages, but Smith quite clearly says that they were not touching the mummy's skin and found on top of the innermost layer. God, 2 different people. A bracelet on the right arm was also revealed much later by x-rays. He was found in his original coffin, which Reeves thinks may have been a second innermost coffin of a nested set. All of the surfaces of the coffin have been adzed over and the eye inlays removed. However, the inscriptions on the interior of the coffin remain intact. Here is his coffin. For those who don't know what adzed is, because it's a really weird word, essentially it's a scraping of these coffins to scrape off gilding, gold plate. Adds, it's like very hard for me to say. Yeah, A-D-Z-E, and then with a D at the end, you adds something. It's technically, I believe it is a tool. It's like a chisel in a way, but it has a long handle sort of. But it also can be used as a verb to adds something, which is to scrape something off with an adds. Yeah, it's a tool that I feel like doesn't exist now or something. Like, I feel like I only hear about it in context of Egypt. So they went and scraped all of the gilding off. They used it. Oh yeah. That would make sense. Yeah. I like that idea that they chiseled it out. I actually don't doubt they probably did a similar thing to chisel out coffins. It's probably a similar tool that they would use, I would think. But it's a verb that we use a lot with the scraping of gold off of coffins to really take whatever you can get. You know, you're right, Ben. Like, obviously, people were desperate enough, or people were... They did it because they did it, and it put money back into the economy in its own way, which is crazy. I agree. Baha, yeah. Or a mattock, which is a British word for a tool that I used in Britain, but I've never used since, which is like a pickaxe, but it's flat. Take me to the British Museum. And ads. Is this Egyptian one? No, this is Hawaii. Oh, that's very cool. Ads. It's a Hawaiian. Yeah, so it's long ways. That's very cool. A Hawaiian ad. Yeah, so this is probably really similar to... I'm actually wondering, can I click ads? Do they have Egyptian ads? They might. The British Museum's website keeps breaking. I can't scroll. I can't scroll. How annoying is that? It won't let me scroll. Yeah, these are the Egyptian ones. Yeah. This shape. They have this weird shape, and you see it in back that adds up. But yeah, this is what the oh my god. I literally just realized you guys couldn't see anything I was talking about on TikTok. I'm so sorry. Oh, God, there's something wrong with one of the games on TikTok, and it does not appear in my display main capture, so I keep switching it, and I forgot. I literally just realized you guys couldn't see a single thing I was talking about. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. All right, we're talking about mummies. I was wondering why it seemed like everyone was leaving TikTok, and I was like, oh, it's because nobody can see anything. My bad. This is Thutmose III. So yeah, so the coffin was adds over, the eye inlays removed, but there are interior inscriptions that were preserved, which is nice. As a matter of interest, a fragment of the shroud from Thutmose III's mummy managed to find its way into the collection of the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. The museum website states the small shroud section had been loaned to them by an individual named Horace L. Mayer in 1931. Mayer finally donated this piece to the institution in 1960 and is recorded as accession number blah blah blah. The museum's website further states that the shroud fragment had previously been part of the collection of Clemente Mariani, indicates that Adolf Erman, the famous German Egyptologist, had in some fashion been involved with Mariani and the fragment. The provenance data provided on the webpage mentions a letter written by Erman to Mariani in 1885, just 4 years after DB320's official discovery. No information concerning the contents of this lever. Okay, let's look this up. Boston. Collection search. Search this number. Fragment. Oh. Fragment of the mummy shroud of Thutmose III. Ink on linen. It's actually written. This is not on view. Fragment of a shroud made of fine linen containing the portion of the Book of the Dead in carefully rendered cursive hieroglyphs. I can't zoom in on that photo. That's a shitty photo. Alright, well, there's a small portion of it. And you can see here how we know it's Thutmose. So I'll explain, Sky, that it's pretty obvious what happened to this piece. Although it's still a little weird. I don't know why they're calling it a shroud, because I would assume that this is a Book of the Dead. But it's made out of linen? Is that what they said? It's ink on linen. This is very unique, but the other thing is we don't obviously have a lot of pharaonic burials, so... Okay, so Thutmose III, let's look at his... This is our names of the kings of Egypt, which we always like to double check so we know what all of their throne names are. What dynasty are we in? We're in 18. This is Thutmose III. We are before... Okay, here we go. So Thutmose III's throne name is Menkeper Re, which you can see here. I can't zoom in on this, but Men is that little box with the lines on top of it. Keper is the scarab, and Re. And Re is a god, so you always put Re first, even though you say it last. It's called hierarchic transposition? I can't remember. And then over here, we have the image of Thoth, which his actual name, not Greek name, is Jehudi. Honorific transposition. I was like, I'm getting hierarchic scale and honorific transposition wrong. Mixed up. So you got Jehudi over here, and Jehudi is the Egyptian god's name. Thoth is the Greek name. So every Thutmose you see is Thothmose, which is technically Jehudi-mose. So, or actually not even Jehudi-mose, Jehudi-mess. Technically, Thutmose III's name is Jehudi-mess. Thutmose is one of the only, not one of the only pharaohs, but he's one of, any of the Thutmosids and Amenhotep's, which is closer, are one of the only ones that we use like their Greek name rather than their Egyptian name. So his real name is Jehudi-mess, is what his name is, but people know him as Thutmose. So right there it says Jehudi-S Mess, or Jehudi-S Mess, Thutmosis, sort of. But yeah, so those are his two. That's his throne name. This is a different version of it with Jehudi on a standard rather than just Jehudi as a god. But Jehudi is his name, not Thutmose. Because that's the thing is Tutankhamun is Tut, T-U-T, but Thutmose is not. It's D-J-U-T-Y, Jehudi. So it's very confusing. So here's the thing with this object, and I'm sure they're going to talk about it in this part. Yeah, I think they are. Here's the thing. The DB320 was discovered by modern Egyptians before Egyptologists. It was discovered by a family called the Abd el-Rasul family. Supposedly they were tending to their goats, and a goat fell into the cache. They found this tomb still during a time where there are inspectors. There is the standard of archaeology is slowly but surely rising in the 1870s, 1880s. It's not there yet. It's not perfect. It doesn't get perfect for a very long time. but it's getting there. And the other thing is that Egyptians are now starting to actually have positions of power rather than French, English, or Americans having positions in power. Again, we're not there yet. That really gets until the 1900s, but we're getting close. At that point when this was found, Gaston Maspero was the head of the Antiquities Museum, and he's French. This family knowingly took objects from the tomb and started selling them on the market. Yeah. So all these relics started appearing on the market, and it started, because a lot of them were labeled with those cartouches, it started turning heads, and it started being like, wait, there's something we don't know that's going on. That tipped off the authorities. Unfortunately, some people and the family members were tortured to be able to get answers. It's a whole lot of moral and ethical problems on both sides of this, unfortunately. So there are objects that left. We do assume, most of them are small. Most of them are cups. There's a lot of cups of, who was it? It was, no. It was one of the ladies we looked at last week. I think it was it almost cinnamon? I can't remember. There was one person last week that we talked about that these little blue faience cups kept appearing. They're in museums all around the world today because they were all removed, and stuff. And so it's a whole big thing. The big item that supposedly left was the mummy and coffin of Ramses I. Although this could have been from, it's not 100% theorized that he actually was in this tomb, but it's the only royal Egyptian mummy to have ever left the country of Egypt. It went through a couple different dealers, and it was eventually kind of mostly settled at a museum in Niagara Falls, Canada, or I think it actually was on the US side. And it closed in like the early 2000s, and the entire museum closed, and it had to sell its whole collection. I think it went bankrupt. Thank you, Sky. And essentially, I know, of all the places, it literally was a very shittily run museum. It was pretty much a, I won't say it was fully Ripley's Believe It or Not, but it wasn't not Ripley's Believe It or Not. It was a little bit of a sideshow because it was a very old museum. It was a museum that was sort of created in the time period of those freak show cabinet curiosities, but that museum was still like that at that time. It never really made the change into sort of a more formal educational service museum. Probably maybe the reason why it completely shut down. And the entire Egyptian collection was purchased by the University of Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Michael C. Carlos Museum. Somebody had already speculated that this might be the tomb of a royal, mainly based off of the crossed arms of the mummy. But when it got to the Carlos Museum, which has Egyptologists, they furthered this idea that this actually might be him. And so they repatriated the mummy back to Egypt eventually, and it went to the Luxor Museum. Because it is not 100% confirmed that it's him, he is not in sort of the place of honor with all of these pharaohs that we're talking about in the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. He is still in the Luxor Museum. He's still kind of speculative as actually being Ramses I. But he now has like a big place of honor because there's not a lot of mummies in that museum. That's very sad, Matt. I don't know that dog, but that's very sad. No, not really, Michael. I do have a video on Mummia, which is about medicinal mummy that is sometimes made out of Egyptian mummy and sometimes not, but that wasn't really for perfume ingredients. That was for medicine. Yeah, and there's paint, but not perfume. Yeah, this is a difficult. The Abd el-Rasul family is not. I don't know. I don't believe in torture for anything, really. It's bad, but it's not that bad. It's not that. It's a back and forth. I'm a very middle ground on this, on the discovery of this tomb. It's very sad on both ends. Okay, so I'm assuming this paragraph is going to be about the possibility of this piece. I forgot to say, that entire summary is that this shroud could have been sold by the Abd el-Rasul family, even though it says that technically there's evidence that the existence of it did not exist until 4 years after it was formally found. It's entirely possible it was in a private collection before, but I am assuming that's what this paragraph is going to talk about. A brief 1931 report supplies information about Adolf Erman's correspondence. Durham reports that Mariani acquired the shroud fragment sometime prior to 1885, when he sent the photograph to the Berlin Museum along with a request for further data. Erman, who never actually saw the fragment and only examined a photograph he had sent, wrote back and informed Mariani that the fragment came from a recently discovered DB320 cache tomb, part of the shroud of the illustrious Thutmose III. He also spoke of its value for the study of the religious text because of its early and exact dating. Dunham also states that I'm losing my train of thought. The fragment had not gone directly from Mariani to Horace Mayer. The individual named Versali Bey had acquired the shroud fragment from Mariani prior to its acquisition to Mayer, saying that Mayer obtained the fabric around 1928 from Bey's heirs. Vasali Bey had once been a conservator working in conjunction with Emil Bruch. Oh, interesting. Interesting. If so, the date of his acquisition of the fragment can be narrowed down sometime between 1885 and 1887. Oh, interesting. So it actually could maybe come from the collection when it was being properly excavated. This is, I always forget the name of it, the Theban Royal Mummy Project. And it goes through many more mummies than the ones that we're looking at. We're only looking at DB320 mummies, but it's got lots of cool information. It's got lots of links, and it's got citations. It's old, I will say, like, you can tell nobody's updated in a very long time. So there's probably newer articles and such that have come out about some of these things. Like, even this is, I'd have to look up what GE7, Journal of Egyptology 17, what year that is, but it's not that up to date, but it's pretty good. So the manner in which he first acquired it is pure speculation. Reports that the mummy had been plundered by the Abd el-Rasul family, and states that shroud had been badly shredded in search for treasures. Romer goes on to say that the shroud's torn pieces are now in several museums. The shroud fragment at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts may have been purchased from a dealer in Luxor, Cairo, who helped the Abd el-Rasul's fence the antiquities that they stole. The MFA shroud fragment is inscribed with portions of the Book of the Dead in neatly written cursive hieroglyphs. The cartouches bearing Thutmose III's throne name are clearly visible in several lines, and it's not on view. He apparently, this mummy did not have a label or a docket. A docket like some of the other mummies in this tomb had. We finally got into the Amenhoteps. I mean, we did an Amenhotep the first, I guess, but finally, wait, did we do yeah, we did Amenhotep the first. I forgot. I was like, what Amenhotep? I think I might need to go get some water. 2 ticks. I'm gonna go get some water. I'm talking too much. I talked for so long today at work. Ugh, okay. Oh, okay. I really want corn nuts, but I'm gonna not have any because otherwise I'm gonna choke. I can feel it. If I have to talk and eat corn nuts, it's never gonna happen. Alrighty, Amenhotep II. We're rolling on down this list. Although apparently, wait, no, actually, is he included in this? No, he's not. He's KV35. That's the next cache that we're gonna look at. Skip. We're skipping him. Oh, this is KV35. Who is this? Oh, this is Tutmos IV. Skip. Oh, we get to go to the next page. KV35 is the next tomb that we're going to talk about after we finish all through DB320. Okay, so we are on Gallery 3. Nope. That's KV46, KV46, KV35. This is also one of the creepiest ones, Amenhotep III. The poor guy. TA is KV35. We're not going to talk about her. Oh, we gotta go to the next gallery. I wish these are organized by the tomb, but they're not, unfortunately. KV55. Oh god, very long. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, that's literally the only person included in this. Oh, I guess we might be... No, we're not done with the 18th dynasty. Very confused. Are we on to the... Oh, I guess we are on to the 19th dynasty. Okay, so I will talk about this guy. I don't know. Is he going to be included in this? I don't know if he is, so I think we'll quickly cover this guy. I just might just have to find... I gotta find something about unknown man C. Here, I found an article. See full PDF. How long is this PDF before I start reading it? It's kind of long, but let's go through this. So there is one more mummy that we'll talk about from the 18th dynasty, and that is something called Unknown Man C. And so it's very hard to obviously tell us who Unknown Man C is, but I found this article. You see, it's so hard to have a fun fact. Oh, Remy, good question. Did they have actual clothes when they were wrapped? No. Most of the time they are butt naked. I only know of a couple mummies that have clothes on. And actually most of those are from the Old Kingdom. It actually was a weird practice to put clothes on them outside of their wrappings to make them look more human. There's only one instance I know of this, but I've heard that there are a couple more. Sky, mostly it is that I just think people think that they're so different and magical in a lot of ways. And I think people get so attracted to kind of the differences and stuff. No, Mark, to make the mummies, make the mummified person look like a person. I know I have a picture of this mummy somewhere. Old Kingdom mummy. It's somewhere in our Discord. It's not the bead net dress. Oh, it's somewhere on our Discord. If somebody goes into the Show Me Egypt and looks up something that Charlie sent. I know. Aha! Here, I found it. Actually, wait, if I just change 7, we're going on a very weird tangent, but stay with me. Come on, Giza website. Here we go. Okay, so this is a tomb in late 4th or early 5th dynasty, and in the Giza Pyramids Plateau. Here's some pictures of what it looked like. This is a dress that was found on a mummy, and there's a picture of her wearing it. There's some more cloth. Where is she? Looking, I gotta find the picture of her. So here she is. So she's in a big wooden coffin, and they've put all this plaster like over her and individually wrapped her fingers and her toes, and she's lying in a huge coffin. Yeah, Remy, we're getting there. So this is just a random shroud on top of her, but here she is with that off of it. So she is wearing a sleeveless dress, and they've added all of this plaster and linen to make her look more human after she's been mummified. So the other thing that's really funny that here's the better photo. You can actually see like all of this plaster that has been added, like a fake nose and stuff, and you can see the V-neck on this dress. The reason that this got brought up is because we were talking about clothing and how ancient Egyptian women are depicted wearing sleeveless clothing all the time. The V-neck on the top, the sleeveless dress all the time. And they don't exist. We don't have sleeveless dresses preserved. And our lovely friend Charlie, who's done a lot of research, saw in a book called Pharaonic Egyptian Clothing by Gillian Vogelsang Eastwood, saw this picture. And I was able to find it on the Giza Pyramids website, which this is a record of the actual excavation and any photos that they took. So then you can see when they took the dress off, she has fake breasts. There's like this big piece of padding that is these fake boobs. And there's a picture of it somewhere. So here's her face. Look at this. This like fake plaster face comes off. Where did the boobs go? It was a really funny photo. Maybe it was earlier and I missed it. Is it this one? Oh yeah, here's the face. It was a really good photo of it, and I just don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. Here's her boobs. I did a whole video about it because I thought it was so fascinating. And it is. And I believe there is some other evidence, but the big thing is that they don't have a lot of mummies from the Old Kingdom that have been preserved in the mummified form. 2 reasons, Remy. that was the practice of the time. Other reason, it may have just fully disintegrated as they examined her. It's definitely entirely possible. But unwrapping mummies was typical. It was going just out of fashion about the time that this was excavated. This is probably late 1800s, I think, when it was excavated. Actually, I can figure out when it was excavated. When was this excavated? We can look at the actual diary page of what year it was excavated and what day. 1912. Okay, so it's a little bit later. But yeah, unfortunately, and the other thing about it is that is such a unique case that they would disassemble it to figure out what it is and to figure out how it worked. There is a little text on the linen. I don't know if I don't think I'm going to be able to read it, but I can try. It's old Egyptian, so I don't trust that I would be able to read it. Where did it go? Also, this is what the tomb looked like. So she's in that big coffin. Where'd that picture go? Nope, I can't. I wonder, okay. We're going on a total side tangent, but I'm fine with it because this is interesting. Let's see if it's in one of the diary pages. It might be. It'll be hard, but it might. The problem is that I have to go through these pages individually, I think. But let's see maybe if there's maps and plans, drawings. There's also lots of publications. Packing list. Yeah, it's not demotic. It's too early for demotic. It is more than likely, it could be hieratic. It also just more than likely could be very easily bled ink on linen. No, I don't believe we know this person's name. There's nothing on here to say that we know this person's name. Because all we seem to really know is... Oh, here's a list of... Oh, okay. Pad of linen with hieratic inscription from mummy wrappings. Linens from wrapping in mummy and wood coffin, 2 pieces inscribed in hieratic. Female mummy with arms, legs, fingers, and toes individually wrapped. Wads of pads of linen inserted between layers of linen wrapping to give body a more lifelike appearance. Face, neck, and breast molded from linen and wet resin. Mid-calf length V-neck tunic placed over body. Yeah. Oh, actually. Haha! See, here's the fun thing about the Digital Giza, which is at Harvard University, is that George Reisner also worked for the MFA in Boston. So these 2 pieces of linen are in their collection, which may mean that somebody at the MFA translated it. Probably not, if there's no photo. Nope. What was the second number? So this is in the MFA, oh, folded pad. Oh, here we go. Let's see. I don't know. I don't trust that they may have actually translated it, but okay. I don't know if you guys could read it. Mummy wrappings from above from 33.1016. This was one of the pads used to fill out the contours of the body. There is one horizontal line of hieratic text in black ink, partially illegible. The first 2 signs of the text say fine linen. I should have known. Yeah. I actually don't know which way is up and which way is down. That might be... I think this is upside down. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it appears that one of the words is fine linen, which is... So I was gonna guess what was this written on. Surprisingly, one of the thing that's very common to write on the corners of linen is what we call a laundry marker. And a laundry marker is going to be the name of the person, so that when you send your linen out for laundry, they know who's it for. Very, very similar to inspected by number 4. And so it would be the deceased person's name. So Ka and Merit, which are 2 individuals that were buried in Deir el-Medina, they had a ton of pieces of linen. Almost all of them are inscribed with either one of their names, so that you knew whose piece of linen you were sending out for washing. Yeah, it's like writing your name in your underpants. Pretty similar. I learned hieroglyphs in grad school. We had a language professor, so I took technically just a year and a half of it. So it's not a lot, and I am not a sight reader. It's you need to do much more writing to be able to get those, become a sight reader. Sorry, I'm just checking if I missed anything. Oh, that's interesting, Sky. I don't think that is necessarily, well, she's asking if the pieces in a mummy wrapping were used by the deceased. Hi, Miss Morphology. Welcome on in. If the linen and the mummy wrapping were used by the deceased. It's a very good question. I've never thought about this before. I think it is possible sometimes. I could see it being sort of a way to get a discount. It sounds stupid, but literally, to get a discount on your deceased family members' wrappings. And there are sometimes writing found on wrappings. Sometimes like full books of the dead, which is papyrus and not linen, so that's a different thing sometimes. That's a very interesting thought, and I kind of don't doubt it, but I don't know if we have enough information to really back it up. That's what I'm thinking. Just because we don't 100%, you can't know where someone's linen wrappings came from, if that makes sense. But that's really interesting. Huh. I never thought about that. Alright. Let's talk about Unknown Man C. So, this is... I'm actually gonna open up the PDF separately so that we can look at it like this. So Unknown Man C is one of the many unknown mummies that we have in different tombs in the royal caches. DB320 being one. There are also unknown mummies that are in KV35, like Unknown Woman, the younger lady, the elder lady, although some of those have tentative identifications. Those are also, were previously unknowns. So Unknown Man C is one of the mummies that was in the Deir al-Bahri cache. This is an article because he doesn't appear to have a Wikipedia page, or he's not on, I can't find him specifically here on this. Actually, let me just double check this. Here we go. They do have Unknown Man C here. Oh, okay. Oh, it's in an unidentified mummies category. Along with another one that we've missed. Okay. I love this. I'm not going to read this article. It's going to take too long. I'd rather read this, which is kind of concise. But apparently I also missed one from DB320 that we'll look at in a second, but we're talking about Unknown Man C. You guys are going? Oh, very cool. Well, welcome on in. We're talking about the Royal Cache DB320 and some of the mummies that you guys will probably see when you go. If the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization is included in your tour in Cairo, you will see a lot of these mummies. Only the royal ones, but you will see a lot of them that we're talking about today. So, unknown man C, DB320, biographical data unknown. So, unknown man C holds the distinction of being the first mummy found by Bruch when he entered DB320. This mummy was discovered in an 18th dynasty coffin, which it's been described as having its surface decorations as doff, which we talked about. They mean it had gold or something nice that they had to add off of it, indicating that it once could have been decorated with gold foil. The coffin has been inscribed for a Wab priest named MelissainDeNile, and Maspero used this inscriptional evidence to identify this mummy, further claiming that this man had probably been an in-law of Pharaoh Penegem I. But since another Egyptologist has confidently dated this mummy earlier to the 18th dynasty, based on the mummification techniques employed by the embalmers, and considering the position of the arms here, which narrows it down and predates it to actually Tutmos III. Now we're saying, okay, well, this probably can't be MelissainDeNile, who seems to be identified much later in the Third Intermediate period. So now we're like, okay, well, who is this guy? It's interesting. So Maspero it is interesting that Maspero is very adamant that this MelissainDeNile was a 21st dynasty person. In view of the obvious, even though Smith says that the coffin actually has an 18th dynasty style to it. And so this would seem to indicate that MelissainDeNile, the MelissainDeNile inscription was added in the 21st dynasty to an 18th dynasty coffin, because they're reusing coffins. They'll ditch the mummy out of it and they'll reuse a coffin, or they find a coffin without a mummy because the mummy's been looted or destroyed, and that's also super common. I'm not going to keep going into this decoration scheme. Okay. So, because this was the first mummy that you saw when you entered this tomb, there is both indication that it was looted in antiquity, but it was also looted by the Abd el-Rasul family to put things out on the market. Because again, first thing that you find in the tomb, might as well grab quite a few things from it. So, as this says, it's difficult to tell if any damage was done to this mummy in ancient times as well. The mummy is fairly intact from an anatomical point of view and displays physical traits that differed significantly from other royal mummies in the early 18th dynasty. So, described as Smith being tall and vigorous. Why? I don't know. Unknown man C measured around 1 meter and 739 millimeters in height. Somebody do the math for me on how many feet that is. Prompting Smith to comment that he would have been a giant among the other, usually smaller Egyptians of the time. His facial features, characterized by Smith as strong with pronounced features, don't resemble any other royal mummy. And there's many physical differences between Unknown Man C and the other cache mummies that Smith, being probably eugenics, because I think he was, he does not appear indigenous, and apparently resembles a completely different group. I think it can be spelled a couple different ways. That is, I believe, one. So it's ABD space EL dash, and I think Rasul can be spelled RASOUL or RASSUL. I think that's two ways I've seen it spelled. Oh yeah, Karakuni did do a book about coffin recycling. I remember hearing about that one. It's super common. People don't think about it, but it really, really is pretty common. Sorry, I'm texting my dad. Mostly. So you sort of can see that they semi kind of rose. The problem is that the problem is that we don't know 100% of what they took. Most of the stuff was small. So there were these cups. There were, I think, some Books of the Dead that they found. And I think maybe some canopic jars, maybe, or some smaller funerary items. We do sort of believe that they did take the whole coffin and whole mummy of Ramses I. And it obviously got past it. It's not 100% confirmed that it came from that cached tomb, but it's very much believed that it was taken. And that it left Egypt around the same time that they were going into the tomb and taking things. But most of the items are very small. I would love to see, I don't know if anybody has ever done a study of the things that are currently in museums now and what could have been, like what was taken or what wasn't taken. There's actually a really interesting Egyptologist. I went to see a lecture by an Egyptologist who is researching all of the items that sorry, my TikTok chat keeps like hiding away and now I can't read anything. There's a guy who did research on looking for objects that left Tutankhamun's tomb. And so he sort of researched 3 different groups of objects. Objects that are in museums that claim to be from Tutankhamun's tomb, but probably aren't. Objects that don't claim they're from Tutankhamun's tomb, but probably are. And then items that are missing from Tutankhamun's tomb. Or, items... Wait, did yeah, that's what it is. Items that claim that are from Tutankhamun's tomb and are from Tutankhamun's tomb. Items that claim that they are from Tutankhamun's tomb and are not. And then items that don't make the claim but are probably from there. And so he did all of this research where he was sort of gathering all of these pieces and trying to figure out why is this dang chat? Can I like lock it? Does that work? Yeah, I think that does work. Okay, so I did a video on it. It's really far back, but like probably a year or two. It's in my I'm pretty sure it's in my Museums with Melissa playlist. It was a lecture I physically went to. I don't think it's online, but I might be able to find the guy. Let's check. I think it's in my Museums with Melissa. Museums with Melissa. Lecture on stolen artifacts from King Tut's tomb. And the guy's name is Mark Gabold. Let's see if he has a website or an article. Mark Gabold. French Egyptologist. Here's his academia. Let me look up Mark Gabold. There is this article. Oh yeah, this is it. There is this article on Archaeology Magazine called The Case of Tut's Missing Collar. This is from 2022. This actually might be... Yeah, this is just after I went to that lecture. I went to that lecture in probably like June, maybe. And so this is one of the pieces, which is this collar, this reconstruction. And these pieces are found are pieces of this collar that were reconstructed into a different necklace. And then these pieces, these like finials, the ends with the hawks, are in Kansas City. And then, so this is all there is of it. I don't know if he's ever published anything about this specific oh, here we go. Wait, different Markabold on ResearchGate. Is this him? Is this him? Aha! Aha! He has an article. An 18th Dynasty gold necklace for sale. Comparisons of Tutankhamun's jewelry. I don't know if you can... I don't know if you can take that link, but... Oh, wow, this is old. So this looks like a more formal article of that article. But he did a whole much longer speech. It actually looks like this one. Yeah. That talk I saw, which was very, very interesting. So you can watch the video. I talk a little bit about it. So Sky, most of these items are items that, most of the items that that he was talking about are items that were not robbed in antiquity. They, like, I don't think, like, he's actually using reference points to Howard Carter's notes about objects and about objects that unfortunately don't appear in any museum context. So I believe he only can reference the objects that were discovered with Howard Carter. So a lot of the items are pretty much taken from by Howard Carter or by Lord Carnarvon. And a lot of the objects that he talked about are objects that were in Howard Carter's personal collection or Lord Carnarvon's personal collection. And thus when they died, went to a different place and now are in a museum somewhere or were purchased. But there was a distinct time period. I always forget when it was, when the tomb was open but closed and no excavation. Howard Carter technically quit like kind of early into the excavation, which took many years. And especially that collar, and an item that I think was on Tut's head was stolen out of the tomb. Like, was essentially when they got back into the tomb, it was gone. And there's really no explanation about that. I don't know if it's that exact broad collar or if it's a different piece, but there are pieces that were more actively looted rather than just being taken from by the actual archaeologists. But it's not really talked about and it's not really reported very well because it's just kind of a big unknown, unfortunately. But it took them I think it took them 4 or 5 years to actually get to the burial chamber. So one of them was ripped off his body. I know that much. I think that's that broad collar. But I'm not remembering exactly. Very good questions, y'all. Very good questions. Hi, Tea Time Cat. Sorry, that was a very big yawn. Okay. Unknown Man C. So he's pretty tall, 1 meter on 739 millimeters. Got a strong face. Smith observes there were small perforations in Unknown Man C's earlobes, possibly indicate that his ears had been intentionally pierced. His teeth were well worn, and he estimated that he was well advanced in years when he died. No trace of genitalia. Why is there so much genitalia been talking about? Causing Smith to wonder if the man had been a eunuch. However, Smith balances this view against the fact that the genitalia of Tutmos I, Tutmos II, and Tutmos III, none of whom who were eunuchs, had all been treated by the embalmers in a similar fashion. I think they're tucking. I think they're tucking. I think they're tucking. I don't know. One of those, I think it was Tutmos I, they said they found it. It just was all tucked up somewhere. I don't know. So no date can be confidently established for the time at which Unknown Man C removed from his original tomb, because we don't know who he is. So here's some pictures of Unknown Man C. He does kind of look older, but he looks very peaceful. I'm just gonna be so honest. I can literally freaking see his genitalia. I mean, I don't think I see it, but it does look like it is there. There's his toes. He's still got quite a lot of hair. I honestly think he looks like a Tutmosid. I feel like his nose looks like Tutmos. This looks like his real hair, though. It doesn't look like a wig. Got a lot of wrinkles. Is there one more? Yeah. Yeah, that does look like his real hair. Sunken cheekbones. Yeah, there are little holes in his ears. I can see it. So yeah, so this guy's a little bit unknown. Here they think that he might be Senenmut, who was an official underneath Hatshepsut, but not 100% sure. So some of these mummies you can determine the age. Most of them it takes a little bit. Actually, you know what I'm thinking of? I'm now thinking that there might even be better estimations. I just thought about this. So there's a book that I have called Scanning the Pharaohs, which I believe all of these pretty much all of the pharaohs that we're talking about, they x-rayed and CT scanned, which would give you the best estimation of how these guys died. And I'm now realizing that this website probably doesn't have that up-to-date information. And they're mainly this website is taking information off of the actual like Royal Mummies book from like the early 1900s. But yes, many of them, if you can do an x-ray and a CT scan, you can see certain things on bones to help you determine how old they were. Mainly that's based off of modern both bioarchaeological techniques and also forensic anthropological techniques to determine age in bones. There are specific, like whenever you look up, if you ever like watch CSI sometimes, or most of these shows don't go into the specifics, but Bones especially, Bones is like one of the big ones. We're talking about aging mummies. Actually, very early MelissainDeNile has a guest lecture with our lovely friend BioArc Mark, who's in the chat, that is over on my YouTube page. I think. Did I post that one? I think I did. I think I posted Mark's lecture. It's the first one. You have that honor. Before we even had a guest lecture series. And I actually bought a book called, what was it called? It was called The Bioarchaeology of Mummies. And so in that lecture, Mark talks about what bioarchaeology is and a lot of stuff, but I do a certain section where I talk about mummies and dating mummies and how it's a little bit more complicated, obviously, because we can't, I literally have no idea. I'm pretty sure I bought it after that, but I honestly, I don't know where, I don't know what that would qualify if I put it in. I'm pretty sure I bought a book called Bioarchaeology of Mummies, but I don't know where that qualifies because I don't think it's not in my bioarchaeology books. Sorry, I can't stop yawning. I'm so sleepy. But But yes, it is possible, and I'm just realizing now that this website probably is just not up to date with that information. Okay, I'm gonna briefly talk about this guy, Bacht, which apparently is just a skull. Ooh, oh, his hair is still there though. How interesting. Oh, he's missing so many teeth. So this mummy is apparently just a head, maybe, or but is in DB320. He does have big molars. Originally misidentified by Mass Pro as Meshenut T. Mehu, this mummy was tentatively identified via inscriptional evidence on its coffin as that of a woman named Bacht, whose biographical details are not known. This identification, however, is based on tenuous evidence and is far from certain. Since no corroborating identification dockets are reported as to have been found on her wrappings, the reliance on a coffin inscription alone for identification purposes inspires little confidence, especially in light of the restorer's frequent mistake of placing mummies in the wrong coffins, which did happen. It is saying that she's female, a woman named Bacht. Mark, look at this mummy. Tell me, is she female? How about her orbital arches and her forehead slope? Her forehead slope. I think it didn't say. I don't know if Mehu is a man or not, but this mummy had been garlanded with flowers and appears to be superficially intact. However, thieves had cut the wrappings open and the mummy itself was little more than a skeleton. Upon examination, the bones were found to be those of a young woman around 21 years of age. Smith comments that she had been exceedingly slender in life, which is okay. An odd assemblage. And this point I know is also important. Mastoid process. That's this. No nuchal crest. I know that. I remember this. Do you mean to visit Egypt right now? An odd assemblage of objects had also been wrapped up with the bones. These include a yellow varnished coffin fragment and a mirror handle. Weird. Smith states that providing the wrappings in which her body were found were original to her mummification and the mummy was probably 18th dynasty derivation. Speculate she may have been a princess, but obviously not. Found in an 18th dynasty, possibly replacement coffin. Surface had been adds off as always. But yeah, there's her. So she could be named Bacht, but she could be named something else. Oh, you mean because of your tattoos? Yeah, you're fine. I don't think there's any problem with those. Like, I don't think anyone has any problems with tattoos. And if you go with the tour group, you're totally safe. If you go by yourself, like, it leads a little bit more, but Egypt is a very safe place. I don't think anyone would care about your tattoos. Unless you are going to a mosque and you have to cover up. And even honestly, I went to a mosque and I covered my head and not a lot of other women were doing it. So, but yeah, just it's more about, honestly, I don't think tattoos are really a huge problem. It's more about covering shoulders and more modest clothing, but that's only in certain contexts. When you're in Egyptian sites, ancient Egyptian sites, you're mostly fine. My nuchal crest is fun to play with. You're so weird. You're such a bioarchaeologist. Oh my god. So yeah, so those are two unknown mummies. What time is it? 10:20? Okay, let's keep going. Who is the next one? Ramses. We're now to the 19th dynasty, I think.